Members, officers and those members of the public attending today's meeting. My name is John Cater, Clerk to the committee. The public element of today's meeting has been recorded in line with City Corporation's policies and the recording shall be retained for up to 1 year. Chairman.
Right, everyone, welcome. It's been a while, right? Again, is this our first meeting since recess? Feels like it is. Thank you all for being here. We've got a pretty packed agenda, a few items. I think we've got a few of our key members dialing online, so hopefully the tech works. But let's get straight into it. Town Clerk, apologies, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies in advance for today's meeting from Deputy Henry Colthurst, Deputy Peter Dunphy, Deputy Christopher Hayward, Trevin Joshi, Deputy James Thompson and Philip Woodhouse.
Yep, thank you. Item number 2.
Thank you, Chair. Item 2, our declaration of the Code of Conduct and respective items on today's agenda.
Well, it's the same one as last time because it wasn't dealt with in between the two meetings, which is regarding 160 Aldersgate Street, where my firm is a tenant. It's under delegated matters.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Alison. Item number 4, John, please.
Thank you, Chair. Item 3, the public minutes of our last meeting on the 21st of July 2025 for decision pages 7 through 12.
Right, any Henry?
Yeah, just out of accuracy, I was there, but train made me late. So I apologise.
Yes, I do remember that. Let's make a note of that, John, please. Thank you. Any other comments, members, on the last minutes? Not seeing any. Okay, let's move on.
Thank you, Chair. Item 4, the forward plan joint report of the Chamberlain City Surveyor for information, page 13.
Yep. Right. So as ever, I think we'll take information. Well, we will take information papers as read, unless there are any burning desire for any comments here. Please do let me know. But I'll look to whiz through these. But I think, Robert, I can see you're on. Can you hear us? And hopefully we can hear you. If you have any quick comments to make on item number 4, or Paul. Yeah, Robert, we're frozen. Right, why don't we? Paul, are you in?
Yeah, I'm in, Chairman. Yeah, nothing in particular, Chairman, unless there are any questions from members.
Okay, I'll take that as read. Okay, let's move on. 5, please, John.
Chair, thank you. Item 5, the Treasury Management Out Term for 24-25. Report of the Chamberlain for information, page 15.
Again, we'll take this one as read, but I'll let Caroline come in for a quick few comments, if you don't mind.
I was just going to hand over to Sarah.
Of course, Sarah. Yeah, thank you.
This is just the Treasury out term for 24-25. Overall, during the year, we saw an increase in cash balances of some 55.4 million. During the year, base rates reduced steadily, starting the year at 5.25 and reaching 4.5 by 31st of March 2025. As at September, they're 4%. The rate of return during the year was 5.09%, excluding the short-dated bond funds. And overall, the city returned generally returns in excess of 5% over all periods from 1 to 12 months through the laddering of investments. And similar to the prior year, we saw an uptick in the local authority market at year end. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. I take it there are no comments. Thank you. Let's move on. 10 o'clock.
Chair, thank you. Item 6 is the Treasury Management Update as at 31st August 25 for information, page 23.
Thank you. Sarah again.
Yeah, this is the Treasury Management Update to the 31st of August. Since we last reported at 31st of May, we've seen a decrease of some 16.1 million in the cash balances, largely due to expenditure on our projects. Again, base rate is currently 4%. Markets are currently predicting potentially one further cut before the end of this calendar year, and the next move oscillating between April and June next year. Overall rate of return is 4.78% as at August, and attached to Appendix 3 is also a list of our counterparties' ESG credentials. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. As ever, any comments? Andrew, please. You might need to move up. Yeah.
I'll read this one. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, it's very pedantic, but in 15A, in the brackets, you have when interest rates increase, bond prices increase, vice versa. It's not when interest rates decrease.
you know we can count on you for the finer details, Andrew. Thank you. Right, let's note that, Town Clerk and Sarah. Thank you. Thanks for that, Andrew. Let's move on to item number 7, Town Clerk, please.
Chair, thank you. Item 7, the risk graduate update for Investment Committee for decision, page 47.
Right. So there's a few components to this one. I think there's a couple of bits that we'll take in private. A few bits that are probably not right for this session. But Robert, hopefully you can hear me. And if you want to make a few comments now, please.
I think the observations that I may go on to in more detail in non-public is that insofar as the delivery of the capital raising that we're going into at the moment, we have to recognise that the capital markets in London are okay and activity is moving along, but there is probably a greater concern amongst investors about the political, economic and fiscal policies and uncertainties in the UK currently, and that's causing people to slow down in terms of the market level of transactions, and people are pricing more risk into their buying assumptions. That's not to say that people are not wanting to invest in the UK. It's quite clear from around the world that there is a high degree of confidence in the transparency and liquidity of the UK, and therefore is an investable area. But tactically at this point in time, pricing is putting a lot of risk in. That is placing risk amongst capital raising for the corporation. I think that's all I should say in this part of the agenda, Chairman.
Yep, thank you, Robert. I have a question from Alison.
Thank you. On page 49, there's a reference to ICO5 sustainability and impact, and the resolution that went to P&R about pensions. I don't know whether that does need to be taken into private session or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then if I...
Please, yeah, carry on. We are taking that in private. Yeah.
Okay. And then under paragraph 12, there's a reference to construction consultancy management, and that then is taken up later on pages 70 and 71. And really, I wanted to know what the corporation were doing about addressing those consultancy issues and capacity, etc. Again, that may well be in a later part of the agenda. I didn't want to lose track of that since it's a risk that we're meant to be looking at. And then finally, page 57, there's a reference to the investment property strategy, and I wasn't sure when that's coming to fruition.
Thank you, Alison. All good questions, most of which we'll take in private. Andrew, I can see your hands up. Let's take Andrew's question, and Robert, I'll let you come in maybe on the consultancy piece and the property strategy. Andrew.
Thanks, Shannon. Just flagging with regards to the brief that Robert raised, I do have a question, but I think it's appropriate under item number 15, so I'll save it for then.
Thank you. Right, Robert.
Chairman, I think I'm going to update on
Sure, Paul. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just to address Alison's question, so I think probably more recently we've had issues with the performance of certain consultant appointments, particularly around cost management and project management, particularly in the space where Ola delivers major projects. So I know Ola's been working very hard with colleagues in procurement to, where we have to, terminate agreements early if we're not getting the performance required by consultants, and just being more, I suppose, particular and really delving into the detail when we are appointing consultants going forward to ensure that A, they have the right capability, and B, they have the capacity. So I think that they're the steps that Ola's taking to ensure we just get a better output from our consultants in the marketplace.
Does that answer your question, Alison?
Yeah, I think there's more to be said, maybe, as you say, later on. Yeah.
Yeah, there's exactly. We've got a couple of things on this item later.
Okay.
Oh, did you have a question, David?
I do.
Yep,
Yes.
please go ahead.
I don't know whether I should have raised this in the first part of the previous item, but I have an underlying anxiety in advance of the Chancellor's statement later in November about the processes which we may, as a corporation, have in place regarding facilities that we have in place, regarding capital raising. We are seeing a number of commentators starting to raise flags about a potential financial crisis. I've seen it now 2 or 3 times. I just wondered how vulnerable we are and what steps, if any, we're taking to alleviate some of those anxieties at the moment.
Yeah,
I should have probably raised that in the first part.
no. Very good question, David. And I'll bring Caroline in. Please go ahead.
And there are several responses to it because, of course, we've yet to see what the budget will be in November, and of course that may settle the markets, it may unsettle the markets. But until we get closer to that, a lot of ideas are being floated at the moment as to what this may be. I mean, one of my takeaways from the risk log here as well is we've got some positive news on the construction side. So we're seeing prices starting to come down. We're seeing less contractors going out of business. Now, that provides confidence in the market. So yes, there are some factors going this way, which is, potentially reducing property prices, but other things, the rate of return is improving for developers. So as we get into the private session, I think we can come on to demonstrating with some practical examples where we're seeing that at play, which I hope will assure the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think to both Alison and David, your point, there's a bit more information coming on this later in on the meeting, which will answer some of those points. But I do agree, if I may, and I think we have a business plan paper later from Mercer that will hopefully cover some of the other topics around how do we prepare ourselves for a downturn, so should a downturn occur and how bad it might be. So we'll cover that later on. Thank you, David, for the questions. Any others? Not seeing any. Okay, let's move on. 10 o'clock.
Chair, thank you. Item 8 is the Climate Action Strategy verbal update. City survey to be heard for information.
Yep. Stephen, yeah. Thank you.
Afternoon. Let me know when you're ready to share. Again, a whistle-stop tour about the Climate Action Strategy update. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot again from the EPC ratings by floor area. In the city's estate, we are waiting on a few lodged EPCs to be completed. So hopefully that will tip over the percentage up to above 50%. We have included Leadenhall to the City Fund EPC now because we have found out that the exemptions doesn't really cover us in terms of compliance. So we're walking towards MEES compliance for Leadenhall Market. Next slide, please.
Just point of clarity, is it 2.3% or is there a digit missing?
Yes, it's 2.3% for City Fund for B and above. So we're looking at a total target of B rating by 2030. So that's what we're aiming for. So that's the key metric here.
So just clarifying, that's by way of the number of properties?
It is by floor area because it gives us
by floor area.
Yes.
Okay, right, thanks.
So this is the EPC progress to date. And as you can see, our current standing is for 42.8%. We aim to be 51.2% as a joint metric for city estates and City Fund. Next slide, please. This is a total capital works to date. We still have to update these figures as and when total works have been reconciled. But this gives you a clear snapshot from 2021 to date. Next slide.
Stephen. Robert's got his hand up, Chair, if you want to.
Robert, did you want to come in now?
Sorry to interrupt this, but I was just very conscious of that question about the 2.3% by floor area. being EPC B or above, which I can quite easily see. I think, Stephen, it'd be helpful to give a little more clarity about what floor area that is referring to. Is it the space under our control, or the space which is the total of the portfolio, including all the long leasehold areas?
It is
that would help
directly
the members
managed.
to understand.
It's the directly managed portfolio, so it's not the long leaseholds, because we do not have any control over the MEES compliance. That's for the long leaseholders to comply with.
I just ask, so what are we doing? I know we're not necessarily responsible for that, but can we at least understand how much that is? Because it's not all leasehold. And what are we doing about that?
Yes, we have a retrofit program that we have metrics to reduce our carbon emissions through carbon pathways. So we use the CREM pathways for each site and portfolio level. And B, we have to ensure that the sites are MEES compliant, so has to have an EPC rating of B and above by 2030. So these are the key metrics that we're trying to achieve over the course of our retrofit programs.
Yeah, I can see. Was there another? Did I see a hand up here? No. Robert.
Yes. Sorry, Shannon. Sorry, Chairman. I think, Stephen, it would just help a little bit. For information, by the time we've been through this capitalisation current year realisation programme, 95% of the city fund will be held on long leaseholds. We will have a very, very small floor area, which is actually given over to directly managed property. And by far the greatest element of that will be Leadenhall Market. So when we talk about 2.3% having been achieved, it's actually of a very small percentage of total floor area of the fund.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
So yeah, next slide, please. And these are the total capital works planned. It just gives you a snapshot on the league table and the costs of our net zero programs. So as you can see, most of it is for industrial estates on Brewery Road and Islington. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of the works on our program management board. So optimization projects, EPC and net zero interventions, works and sites and works completed. So it just gives you a snapshot of what we're currently working on at this moment in time. This is our planned kind of spend profile, but this is a very fluid chart. So as and when we get tenant consent, these costs could move forward or backwards, because we have to ensure that we get tenant consent to potentially do quite disruptive works on site. Essentially, most of the projects that we have on our program tracker are now with tenants in situ, so that's the most difficult challenge we have now. Next slide, please.
Just quickly ask a question. Can you give us a flavour of what these works are?
Yes, so it can be decarbonising, so removing gas and installing electrification, so air source heat pumps or electric boilers. We're coming up to winter now, so these are quite highly disruptive. So we kind of put these on hold until the springs, but we're still working towards getting those works done by spring when heating loads are reduced. Some of these are quick wins as well, building fabric and also optimization of their use as well. This chart is looking at our carbon saving league table, so our projected savings for each site. And as you can see, Fairview Industrial Park, it has by far the most potential for carbon savings. This is due to them using diesel heaters to heat a large expanse of space. So this gives us a flavour of where to focus our efforts on and where the material carbon savings are. Next slide, please. And this is our performance for city estates and city fund in terms of downstream leased asset emissions. And as you can see, we have drastically reduced our emissions by predominantly having better data. We have used benchmarks or constructed figures in the past, and now we're actually getting actual utility data straight from the long lease holders and also our directly managed portfolio, but coupled together with our retrofit program and optimization works as well.
Members will know that the corporation produced its annual report on its net zero, and that's coming out. It's currently embargoed, but it's coming out at the P&R committee next week, and then will be published on the 20th of October. Members have had an early sight of that. And one of the things that is important to notice is exactly as Stephen said, which is that suddenly those emissions have reduced by half. And it would be nice, in one sense, think, oh, that's all due to our work, but actually it is due to the fact that the work has been not around actual property interventions, but it's around properly getting the data and then analysing that. So it's also good because it means we've got the data now, and unless you have the data, you can't then move forward. But it is a dramatic fall, as you can see, of half of the city funds emissions over that period, and that's why, because we were using sort of proxy and estimates and things. Now we've got proper data. So well done on the data capture. We need to then move forward on the work as well. So thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question around that? So do we re-baseline now that we've got the right data?
That is a decision that we think we have to collectively make, because we have to make data-led decisions and we have to have confidence in the data. So this just highlights the importance of having great data so we can actually move forward and progress.
I think that's a really good point, Claudine, and I would love to hear more about when you think we might need to make that decision around rebaselining. Andrew.
Yeah, I think Claudine makes a very good point. I was going to bring this up afterwards, but I'll bring it up now. So the point that Claudine's just made, rebasing, linking it to what you had on slide 7. So my question, and I assume this is probably for Caroline, how does this then affect the discussions we had at P&R Away Day, Caroline, with where the program is going with regards to this? Because there's 3 separate parts here. One is rebasing, which is an important decision. That's then linked to the cost and where we are, but then linking it to that overall picture. When you join the dots, I don't think we can make the decision in isolation. I think we need to join the 3 dots together, but happy if you want to answer. Are we in private? We're not in private, are we?
Not yet.
Okay.
So I think, Chair, on all of this, it's in terms of what is our actual objective, which is net zero by, and how we monitor that then becomes crucially important. In terms of when the decision will be made, we'll have to consult with colleagues as to the timeframe and taking on board what policy we'll be looking at next week. I think we've been looking at risks to the achievement of this by 2027 and what we're doing more widely across the city by 2040. So I think there is a should we say wider conversation to happen across the whole of the sustainability piece.
Thank you for the question, Andrew. If I may just make one quick point, this is more an observation from a conference that I recently attended, and there was a talk by, I forget his name, a professor from Oxford University around effectively when you have emissions, CO2 emissions, one way to kind of achieve net zero is to put it back in the ground. Yeah, I guess it was him. Absolutely was him. Fascinating talk. And I found that really interesting around that concept. We talk about net zero and targets around when we're going to achieve that. And I'm probably oversimplifying what he mentioned, but it seemed quite a natural solution or an obvious solution, which is if you're emitting something from the ground and you are creating pipes and everything to extract it, find a way to put it back in. And apparently it can be done.
Yeah, that's carbon capture systems. So yeah, that is something that the industry is looking at.
Yeah, sorry, as a bit of an aside, but I found that an interesting, yeah. Right, Stephen, back to you.
Yep, next slide, please. We now have our EUI dashboard tool, and this gives us a snapshot of offices in terms of energy use intensity. So we've measured these energy performance on the sites against industry benchmarks, and we've used CREM as a constructed benchmark and DeepKey as a measured benchmark. The difference is when DeepKey is using actual data or their client data to have a typical benchmark of use in their client base. So we could actually see and compare our performance against these benchmarks. And as you could see, there's some engagement and work to do to actually bring these down to typical performance standards. And this is offices only. So if we go to the next slide, the same for industrial estates. So as you can see, this gives us a good insight of where to focus our efforts and where to engage with our tenants for energy saving, with brewery 76 to 82 Brewery Road as a focus point for industrials. And if you go to the next slide, and the same with retail and leisure, the F&B is quite, it's like the Wild West in terms of performance, with differing equipment and opening hours. So you do get a large range of energy performance in this sector and in retail too. But as you can see, a measured benchmark for UK net zero carbon building standard and CREM a constructed benchmark too. So next slide, please. Ground leases, we are still looking at embedding green lease clauses into our ground leases, with 11 live restructures and 34 in the pipeline. Just to make you aware that we are not responsible for MEES compliant for long leaseholders. They are responsible to remain compliant with their tenants. We have also sent over a ground lease sustainability questionnaire, so we could actually picture our ESG risks with our long lease holders, and we're due to receive all the, well, hopefully as many respondents as possible by 31st of October. So we could get some more insights there.
Stephen, just a quick question there. So 34 in the pipeline, just in terms of timing, how long does that take typically to get from pipeline to become one of the 11 live, or we get to 45 live?
The pipeline is generally where a lease is coming down to about 100 years left, or someone's come and approached us. In terms of how long it takes from getting a proposal from the other side to actually documenting it, could be anywhere from sort of 6 months to a year, depending on how difficult the negotiation is. But those 34, you know, they could come on stream at any time over the next year or two, I would have thought, based on where we know now.
Great, thank you. Alison.
As I read the delegated report, which I know is in the confidential sector or the private section, you know, there are lots of projects you've got in line, and I was going to ask how many of them are you managing to create the green lease clauses, and is there any compromise in the two? So maybe I'll ask that again when we get to the delegated powers.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good question. Thank you, Alison.
Yep, next slide, please. And the last slide is resilient building progress. We have implemented one resilient measure, so it's out of our findings, it's just due to good maintenance. So it was a pretty quick win in terms of ensuring drainage systems are clear and to prevent drainage, which is to prevent rainwater flooding. This is a quick win, but also the climate adaptation measures that we have to do can also be a heavy capex to the site. So we have to weigh up the risks and opportunities there. We do have phase 2 screening. So this is additional questions to actually forward plan our next round of resilience surveys for the city, and also proactively upskill our FM and project management teams to embed climate resilient adaptations into our program works and maintenance programs as well. And next slide, please. Yeah. And yeah, open to any questions now. Alison.
Just by way of a general question, do we get this update once a year? Is that right? Or is it every quarter? I can't remember.
Every quarter.
Okay, and I just don't know whether it would be helpful to members, because some people are new around the table and some aren't living it all the time. Whether we could have, we don't have any report by way of in writing, maybe some sort of overarching matrix of what we're looking at, and then we can see, oh, you've done so far, because at the moment they're just popping up and we're not really seeing them in the context of the wider picture. So I think if next time we could have something not too long and not causing you too much extra effort, but by way of background, and then we can look at these matrix. And I'm assuming those slides will come to us. And is there any reason why we couldn't have had them in advance?
Yeah, no, great point. Maybe a one-pager dashboard type board that'd be useful. Why don't we let Stephen take that away, or unless you have any comments now?
Yeah, well, I could take that away. Yeah.
Thank you. Robert again. Robert.
Just to observe that we are in discussion with the CAS Investment Programme Board as to what reports we produce and on what frequency, simply because there have been different committees and different reporting bodies requesting different reports at different points in time, with a slightly different emphasis. So I'm trying to make the whole reporting process more efficient. So I would just feedback that I would like to make sure that whatever we do for the investment committee is coherent with whatever we're doing with others as well, just so we've got constant information flowing out across the corporation. That's all. It's just an observation.
Thank you, Robert. No, fair point. Thank you. Right, unless we have any other questions, not seeing any, let's move on. 10 o'clock. And thank you, by the way, Stephen. Great presentation.
Chair, thank you. Turning now to item 9, questions on matters related to the work of the committee. What's in public?
I don't think we've received any questions as yet. Any questions in the room? Not seeing any. All right, let's move on.
Thank you, Chair. Item 10, any other business to consider urgent?
Nope.
Thank you. We turn to item 11, exclusion of the public. Amendments consent to exclude the public at this point. Yep. Thank you. Ken, gratefully switch off the live feed, please.